Guys, October is here and it is time for me to give you some horror recommendations for your own 31 days of horror. Stay tuned. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, and October is here, the spooky season is here, Halloween is upon us. This is my absolute favorite time of the year. And yeah, it's that time of the year where you want to watch some horror movies. You want to stock up on horror movies. You want to get crowd into your living room. You want to get under the covers. You want to turn out all the lights, and you just want to watch some scary shit go down on screen. So what I'm doing here today, guys, is I'm going to start a weekly segment through the month of October where I perfectly curate and map out a list of horror movies for you to watch during the month of October. And obviously, guys, everybody's different. Everybody's in the mood for different things. I know that you're not going to follow this list to a T, but I thought maybe if I could inspire some to watch some of these films that maybe you haven't seen or heard of before, or just haven't watched or realized how important they are to the world of horror, then I would be doing my job here, because I love horror. I'm kind of a horror guy. That's my thing. That's my genre. It's my favorite genre. I've got an entire horror collection behind me. I've got some Jason, Jack Torrance pops up there. And what I want to do with this list is, like I said, I'm not just going to call out all of the obvious ones. You know, obviously, watch Halloween, watch The Shining, watch The Exorcist. Those may pop up on my list. I'm definitely going to have some popular movies, but I'm also going to have some under-the-radar movies from the past couple of years. I'm going to have some obscure 80s, 70s classics. I'm going to have a lot of stuff that you may not think of right off the top of your head, but I want to kind of spotlight here and let you guys know about them. And I'm not just going to call out the movies, but I'm also going to show off my collection. I actually have them all in physical media form right here. I may not always have that in segments to come, but I'm going to show you where to buy those online, how much they are right now. I'm also going to tell you where they're streaming right now. So yeah, I'm just going to run everything down for you guys. So if you're interested in watching these movies, you'll know exactly where to go. You'll know exactly how to buy them and how to get them. So, and I want to just run this kind of casually, guys. I just want to talk about these movies. I love talking about horror. It's my favorite. It's just my favorite thing to talk about, because it's the thing I feel the most knowledgeable about. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and get into it. So we are on October the 1st right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run down 7 movies. That's going to take us into next week. And next Wednesday, I think I'm going to make this a Wednesday segment. I'm a day behind because I would like to make this a Wednesday segment. I am going to give you the first 7 today. I'm going to give you the next 7 next week, next 7 after that, next 7 after that, until the Halloween season is over. Probably on the last video, I'll do 10 just to cover everything all the way up into Halloween, guys. So let's go ahead and get into the first 7 for day 1. What I am recommending to you guys is Scream. Scream is a classic 90s slasher movie. Right here, I got the DVD. I have not upgraded this to Blu-ray yet, but this movie changed the game, guys. Horror was essentially dead in the mid-90s. Like, there was not a lot of great horror coming out of this time. Like, Candyman comes to mind. You know, Silence of the Lambs won the Oscar for Best Picture. A lot of people don't consider that a horror movie, which I find kind of crazy. Horror was just really on the decline. There wasn't a lot of it out there. It wasn't in the forefront of people's minds. And Wes Craven came up with this idea for this slasher movie. This very meta, calling back to tons of slasher movies in the past. It was such a fresh take on the genre, revitalizing the slasher genre. For better or for worse, we would get all kinds of slasher movies in the late 90s, like Urban Legends, like I Know What You Did Last Summer. So many ones that seem to be riffing off of this one. Some were better than others, and some were garbage. You know, Halloween, the movie that inspired this film, was even inspired by this film to make Halloween H2O, which is essentially a Scream knockoff with Michael Myers. So the influence of Scream was real in the late 90s and early 2000s. You definitely saw it everywhere. Everybody wanted to make a movie like Scream. The script is so incredibly smart. The performances are great. The music is fantastic. It's like everything, the direction, everything about this movie is so sharp and witty and clever. And it's scary as hell also. It's really scary. It's funny. Just so many incredible moments in this movie. I watched it the other night, and I've seen it so many times. I know it word for word. So quotable. But I watched it with the director commentary with Wes Craven and the writer. who talked about the film, and I never watched it that way. I haven't really watched a lot of commentaries, I'll admit that, and I want to go back and start watching and listening to more of the director and writer's takes on it. But it was a really interesting commentary. What they do in the first act of this film is something that is rarely seen in film and rarely done, and it was so shocking and surprising. Just what they did with Drew Barrymore's character. But if you haven't seen Scream by now, definitely see Scream. Right now, guys, the main thing that I saw on Amazon.com is you can buy this in a 3-movie pack, because I would absolutely recommend Scream 2 and 3. I know some people aren't high on Scream 3. They say it's the weakest. I definitely do think it's the weakest of the 4. I think Scream 4 is better. But they have a 3-movie collection on Amazon right now for $17.99. I think that Scream 2 is almost just as good as this one. I love Scream 2. It's one of my favorite horror sequels. But director Wes Craven, this is not on streaming right now for free, but you can rent it on Prime or Vudu. But I definitely recommend picking up that 3-movie collection for 18 bucks on Blu-ray on Amazon. That's a great deal. So let's go ahead and get to the next recommendation, guys. Day 2. We are going to talk about a movie from 2016, directed by James Wan, and that is The Conjuring 2. And I know, I went straight for the sequel and didn't even talk about the first one. The first one is great. It's fantastic. Everybody knows that. It like Scream did for the horror genre in the mid-90s, I think The Conjuring movie in 2013 did for the horror genre as well. Just brought it back in a different way with The Haunting, the ghost, or the classic ghost story possession film that nobody seemed to get right after The Exorcist, but The Conjuring did it. Brought it back to the forefront and brought horror back, and I believe is responsible for all the fantastic horror films we've gotten in the 2010s. Not so much the 2020s. 2020 has sucked for horror, but in the 2010s, we had some amazing horror films that were I think a light was shown on them because of films like The Conjuring and Conjuring 2. So The Conjuring 2, I think, is super underrated and slept on. I think, and there's criticisms of this film that I can definitely see, and I actually watched this last night. You know, it is kind of overstuffed, overbloated. There's a lot of monsters and characters, and the story, it goes on for a little bit too long. They take a little bit too long to wrap it up in the end. I get those criticisms. This movie, though, so many incredible moments of horror. It's scary as hell. The Nun is actually terrifying in this movie before they just overdid it with her and made a Nun movie and all that. The Nun movie sucks. I don't like that one. But I love The Conjuring 2. It's super underrated. And yes, it is very commercialized horror. This is not art house horror. This isn't a Hereditary, a Midsummer. It's very accessible for the average horror fan, but it is super scary. And I do love this movie a lot. It was one of my favorite films of 2016. So yeah, great film. So, and you can get this right now on Amazon.com for $4.99 on Blu-ray. So that's a super awesome deal for The Conjuring 2. You can also stream this on HBO Max right now, Hulu, Amazon Prime. This is on all of those services. So definitely check this out if you can. So let's move on to the next film on the list. And that is, this one's kind of a fun one. It's one that you may not have heard one. It's from the 80s. It's from 1988. It's a super fun movie. It's not serious at all. It is Night of the Demons. Night of the Demons. I always get this confused with Night of the Creeps for some reason, which I haven't seen, but I have seen Night of the Demons. Super fun take on the possession genre that's completely different from The Conjuring or The Exorcist, the way it handles demonic possession. It handles it in kind of slapstick, almost ridiculous kind of way. It is almost like a horror comedy. Not quite all the way there, but it does toe that line. And it's just super fun. I love this movie. Great special effects, makeup effects work, great kills in this movie. It's just a really fun movie that I enjoy. So yeah, this one is the Scream Factory edition. You can actually get this on Amazon right now for $14.99, which is a pretty good price for a Scream Factory. It's got tons of special features on it. Let me show you the disc inside. You actually get a DVD copy and a Blu-ray copy with this particular Scream Factory, and you don't always get that. Cool reversible cover art on it as well. So Night of the Demons, you can also stream it on Amazon Prime or Pluto TV right now for free if you have those subscription services. So yeah, definitely check out Night of the Demons for day 3 of the 31 Days of Horror. So let's move on to day 4, guys. And for day 4, I'm going to give you another one that you may not have heard of. It is actually on Netflix right now. That's the easiest way to watch it. That's the way I watched it like 5 years ago when I saw this for the first time. It is a found footage movie. It's one of the best found footage movies I've ever seen. It's called Creep. It has Mark Duplass in the lead role. It is directed by Patrick Brice. It's a Blumhouse film. Probably one of the best Blumhouse films, to be honest. Patrick Brice also stars in it. It's basically about a guy puts up on an ad on Craigslist for somebody with a camera to document his life. Basically, he wants a documentary made on his life. And I can't remember if he puts in the ad that he has cancer, but basically he's a guy that has cancer. He's dying. He wants this guy to come in and film his last days of life or whatever. And he gets there, and the guy slowly starts to discover that Mark Duplass is a little bit full of shit. And he's not 100% being honest with him, with his ailments and stuff. And some things start to get discovered, and it gets very creepy. It gets very weird. It gets very creepy within 5 minutes of meeting Mark Duplass's character. But Mark Duplass, man, this is like one of my favorite roles and performances of any horror film. He is so freaking energetic and charismatic and just creepy in this movie, and just like the title, Creep. This excellent movie. Check this out. It is only like 75 minutes long. It's not long. It's not a big time investment. It is on Netflix right now. Check it out. But if you want to own a physical copy, this is actually not even available in Blu-ray right now. I got this copy from a Half Price Books. I got lucky for $4. It is on Amazon right now on DVD for $5.99 though. If you want to own a physical copy, if you watch it on Netflix and love it, this is the only way you can own a physical copy of Creep. But I love this movie. It is freaking great. It's a great found footage movie. So that's my day 4 recommendation. Let's move on to day 5, and I have got such pleasures to show you with this one. It is Hellraiser, guys, and yes, I still have the DVD copy. I also have a VHS copy because this is one of my favorite horror films of all time. I love this movie. I wouldn't say it's top 10. It's not that high, but it is one of those 80s horror movies that it invokes a certain feeling within me as a horror fan. It's really dark. It is really disturbing. It's full of that grotesque, bloody, almost sadistic, sadomasochistic type of horror. It deals with like the balance of pleasure with pain, and it's a lot of weird themes incorporated in this film. Most people know this for the movie with Pinhead. He's an iconic slasher. If you haven't seen Hellraiser, you know Pinhead. You know who he is. He's an iconic villain. But if you haven't seen this movie, it might surprise you, but he's actually not even really the focal point of this film. There's an actual really deep story within this film about a family that's being torn apart by this woman and the brother of that family. Just evil people that plot to destroy this family and this daughter and this husband. But it's a really disturbing movie. It goes to some really dark places, some really dark imagery, directed and written by Clive Barker. Who started off as an author, then he started writing movies, he directed movies. He's like so this movie is just full of imagination and full of when you watch this movie, it's kind of like when you watch a Tim Burton movie and you're like, that could only come from Tim Burton's head. When you watch this movie, you're like, that could have only came from Clive Barker's head. It's such a unique style that he brings to this movie. And the score of this movie by Christopher Young is one of my favorites of all time. Such an awesome score. Hellraiser, awesome movie. Check it out. Right now, the best way to buy this, if you are a collector, if you're into that sort, there's an Arrow edition right now for $27.99. It is a beautiful set. I can't believe I don't own it. I want to own it. I need to pick that up at some point. Beautiful set for $27.99. There is also a double pack of both Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2 on Blu-ray on Amazon for $14.59, which is an excellent deal for both of those on Blu-ray because, to be honest with you, Hellraiser 1 and 2 are the only two of this franchise that are worth watching. I say that as a big Hellraiser fan, at least of the first two. The rest of the Hellraiser movies, 3 is fun and watchable. It's not good. It's not a good movie. The rest of them are freaking atrocious. They're horrible movies, just bad. I can't find any redeeming qualities about them. They're just really bad movies. Hellraiser 1 and 2, that was a great horror double feature for sure. So definitely check those out. You can actually stream this on Hulu, Prime, Tubi, and Pluto TV right now. So those are all on there if you are subscribed to those platforms. But let's move on to day 6, guys, because I got another really fun one here. I got the Scream Factory edition of it. It's one of my favorite sets, and that's Creepshow from 1982, directed by George Romero and written by Stephen King. So this is an anthology horror film. If you don't know what that means, it's basically 5 stories in one. They're all super fun. Some of them are pretty scary. The imagery in this film is fantastic. George Romero directing it, legendary zombie director. He brings some of that to this movie. There's a really fun story where Stephen King actually acts in the movie, and involving some grass and stuff that's growing around his house and on his face. And it's a really fun one. That might be one of my favorite. The first one's my favorite segment. I think that one's my second favorite. But yeah, Creepshow is fantastic, guys. It's the definitive horror anthology film. There are some that came before, and certainly some that came after, like Trick or Treat and all those ones, the VHS movies. But horror anthologies are always just super fun to me. Somehow, like, horror lends itself better to those short form like stories, like Tales from the Crypt back in the day. That's why that show was so successful. Horror in the short form is really cool and really fun. You can tell some really unique horror stories in the short form, for sure, that are actually super scary. So I love Creepshow. But let's dig into this set a little bit, guys. Right here, it has a booklet. This is actually, I don't know if I can recommend buying this. It is a really awesome set. It is on Amazon right now for $34.96. That is very pricey. I feel like it'll go down because those Shout Factories, they run sales and stuff like that. So I wouldn't buy it for 35 bucks. I would wait for a price drop, a 20% off or something like that, because it'll eventually have a price drop or something. It's one of their most popular sets, but it is an awesome set. So if you don't want to pay $35 for it, you can also get the Blu-ray that's on there for $14.99. As well, and you can rent this. It's not available for if you have any streaming services, but you can rent it on Vudu and Prime right now. So let's go ahead and get on to day 7, guys. And I mentioned this film briefly earlier. It's one of the few horror films, I believe. I don't know if there's another one. I have to do my research, but one of the few, maybe the only horror film that won Best Picture, and that is Silence of the Lambs from 1991, directed by Jonathan Demme. And this is a masterpiece horror film, guys. It's not one of my personal favorites, but I don't revisit it too often. I did buy this set because it's freaking gorgeous. But there's no denying that this is one of the most technically impressive horror films of all time. And there's a lot of people, and I've had this argument on Instagram before, that don't consider Silence of the Lambs a horror film. They say it's more of a crime thriller, and I can see that. But my only argument against that is Hannibal Lecter is absolutely, beyond the shadow of a doubt, a horror icon, okay? He is a horror movie icon. He is a guy that eats people. He eats people in the movie. There's all kinds of incredible horror imagery and cinematography in this movie. Jodie Foster's fantastic. Anthony Hopkins gives a career-defining performance as Hannibal Lecter. He's so good in that role. And I absolutely love this movie, even though it's not like one of my absolute favorites. Every time I watch it, I get sucked in to the story and drawn into it. But Silence of the Lambs, fantastic. This Criterion right now is available on Amazon for $27.94. I can actually recommend that if you're a big fan of this film, or if you want to watch it for the first time. It's a classic. It's a masterpiece. You'll love the movie if you haven't seen it. This is a great set, though. It opens up. It's got booklets in it. It's got tons of special features. Criterion always does a magnificent job with their sets and stuff. So I absolutely recommend this movie for sure. It is available on Blu-ray as well for $8.48, just the regular plain Blu-ray. And guys, if you don't want to own it on physical and you just want to watch it, pretty much every single streaming services offers this right now. You got Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, YouTube, Sling TV, all. If you have the subscription services to those, you can watch Silence of the Lambs. But that does it, guys. That is 7 movies. We got day 1, Scream, day 2, The Conjuring 2, day 3, Night of the Demons, day 4, Creep, day 5, Hellraiser, day 6, Creepshow, and day 7, Silence of the Lambs. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the video, but let me know in the comments below how you like these picks. If you're maybe going to take me up on any of these picks and check them out. And if you do, share that with me. DM me on Instagram at Mid-Level Movie Reviews and Mid-Level Media, or whichever way you want to contact me, and let me know. I'd like to know if my recommendations they worked for you, if you enjoyed them, or if you didn't enjoy them and you're like, I can't believe you recommended that movie. Let me know that as well. Give me the feedback in the comments below. DM me, whatever way you want to contact me. I'd love to hear about it. I love horror though, guys. I'll be back next Wednesday with another batch of horror recommendations for the month of October. So with that, guys, go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Comment down below. like this video, please like this video, and we'll see you next time.